You walk into the kitchen and suddenly freeze. You have absolutely no idea why you went in there. You stand by the fridge, your hand hovering over the handle, your heart racing slightly, wondering if this is it, the beginning of the end. We have all been there. We obsess over lost car keys, a forgotten name at a party, or walking into a room and blanking out. But here is the hard truth that most people get wrong. Forgetting where you put your keys is usually just normal aging. It is annoying, but it is rarely the red flag you think it is. The real danger is that while you are worrying about your memory, you are completely ignoring how you move through your house. The actual early warning signs of dementia often show up in your legs, your nose, and your ears long before they touch your memory. We need to look at your walk, your nose, and specifically your ears, but not in the way a standard checkup does. If you only test your hearing in a quiet doctor's booth, you miss the specific signal that connects directly to brain decline. You need to test it in a specific type of noisy environment. It is critical to understand why we are looking at the body to save the brain. We all have those senior moments. You tell a story and lose the thread halfway through. That is frightening, but there is a distinct difference between normal aging and a degenerative disease. Normal aging is forgetting a neighbor's name, but remembering it 3 hours later while you are washing dishes. Dementia is forgetting that you even have a neighbor. As we get older, our brains do shrink slightly. That's a natural part of life, just like skin getting wrinkles. However, when the brain starts to struggle with processing information from your senses, it indicates that the wiring is fraying. Think of your body as a dashboard. Before the engine, your memory fails completely, the oil pressure light and the temperature gauge start flickering. We are looking for those system failures in the body's sensors. If we catch these flickering lights now, we can do something about it. Let's start with the nose. This is often the absolute first signal, appearing years or even a decade before memory loss. The part of your brain that processes smell, the olfactory bulb, sits right underneath the frontal lobe and connects directly to the hippocampus, which handles memory. When the brain begins to degenerate, particularly in Alzheimer's cases, this area is often the very first to be affected by the toxic plaque buildup. We're not talking about being unable to smell smoke or a gas leak, although that is serious. We're talking about losing the ability to identify complex scents or needing the source of the smell to be dangerously close to your face before it registers.
This brings us to the peanut butter test. Why peanut butter? Because it is what scientists call a pure odorant. This is a crucial distinction that most people miss. Many strong smells like peppermint, vinegar, or ammonia actually tingle or sting the inside of your nose. That sensation is not just smell, it is a physical reaction triggered by the trigeminal nerve. You could have zero sense of smell and still feel the sting of vinegar because your pain receptors are working. Peanut butter is purely smell. It does not sting. It relies entirely on the olfactory nerve. Research suggests that in the early stages of Alzheimer's, the left nostril becomes significantly less sensitive than the right. The left side of the brain is often affected differently, and this asymmetry is a massive clue. Most people do this wrong by just sniffing the jar with both nostrils open. That tells you nothing. You need to isolate the sides to see the imbalance. This asymmetry is vital because general aging might make both nostrils a bit weaker, but a specific degenerative process often attacks one side first. Try. Get a standard ruler and a jar of peanut butter. You need a partner for this to be accurate. Sit down and close your eyes. Close your mouth tight. It is essential to close your mouth to prevent retronasal smelling, where odors travel from the back of the throat up to the nose. Block your right nostril completely with your finger. Have your friend move the open jar up from your chest slowly, centimeter by centimeter, until you can just barely detect the smell of peanut butter. Not a strong smell, just the first hint. Measure that distance. Then wait 90 seconds to let your nose reset. This pause is non-negotiable because your nose gets blind to smells very quickly. Do the exact same thing with the left nostril. If your left nostril needs the jar to be significantly closer, we're talking about a large difference, like 10 centimeters or more, compared to the right, it is a sign worth mentioning to a doctor. If you can smell it at 20 centimeters with your right nostril, but you need it to be at 5 centimeters for your left nostril, that is the olfactory asymmetry we are looking for. It suggests the processing center on one side is failing. This test is effectively a window into your timeline of your brain's health, potentially giving you a 10-year head start on diagnosis. Now, let's look at your walk. We tend to think walking is automatic. You just stand up and go. But walking actually requires a huge amount of brain power. Your brain has to coordinate balance, speed, obstacle avoidance, and muscle rhythm all at once. It is a massive computational task. When the brain starts to struggle, it has to prioritize. It cannot do everything at the same time anymore.
It has a limited amount of battery power. The specific sign we are looking for is called stops walking when talking. This is a classic dual task failure. Imagine you are walking down the street with a friend. You are moving at a good pace. They ask you a question that requires a bit of thought. Maybe, what are we going to buy for your grandson's birthday? Or what time is your appointment next Tuesday? If you have to physically stop moving your feet to answer that question, your brain is struggling to dual task. It is shifting all its energy to the thinking task and pausing the walking task because it can no longer handle both simultaneously. A healthy brain can walk and calculate at the same time. A struggling brain has to choose one or the other. This matters because it indicates a reduction in your cognitive reserve, the buffer your brain has against damage. Safety is the priority here. Please do not test this on uneven ground, stairs, or icy sidewalks. If you have existing balance issues, skip this check. But for most, pay attention to your daily walks. Are you shuffling more? Is your speed changing erratically? This is called gait variability. A healthy brain keeps a steady rhythm, like a metronome. Tick-tock, tick-tock. A struggling brain has a beat that skips and jumps. You might take 2 short steps, then a long one, then a shuffle. That irregularity is the brain misfiring signals to the legs. Another aspect of the walk is the turning radius. When you walk into a room and need to turn around, how do you do it? Do you pivot smoothly on one foot, or do you do a choppy turn, taking 5 or 6 small, hesitant steps to rotate your body? That en-bloc turning, where you turn your whole body like a statue rather than twisting your neck and hips fluidly, is a sign of rigidity and motoplanning deficits, often associated with Lewy body dementia or Parkinson's disease, but also seen in general cognitive decline. It implies the brain is losing the ability to sequence complex movements. This leads us to the ears. You might go to your doctor, put on the headphones, and press the button when you hear the beep. You might pass that test with flying colors. That test measures volume detection. It tells you that your mechanics, the eardrum and the little bones, are working, but it does not tell you if your brain is working. The sign of dementia is not deafness, it is a central auditory processing disorder. This happens because of sensory gating. Think of your brain like a bouncer at a nightclub. Its job is to filter out the background noise, the hum of the refrigerator, the traffic outside, the clinking of glasses, so you can focus on the conversation. When that bouncer gets tired or weak, the filter breaks. The background noise floods in.
This inability to filter sensory input is often one of the very first alarms. This is the cocktail party effect. In a quiet room, you hear fine, but add the clatter of silverware, a TV in the background, and 2 people talking at once, and suddenly you are lost. You can hear the noise. It is actually too loud, but your brain cannot separate the voice you want to hear from the background chaos. It all blends into a wall of sound. You find yourself leaning in, frowning, trying to read lips, or just nodding along, pretending you understand. This is dangerous because it leads to social withdrawal. You stop going to family dinners because it is exhausting to try and follow the conversation.
You stop meeting friends at cafes because the acoustics are terrible. Isolation is one of the fastest ways to accelerate brain decline. It becomes a vicious cycle. You withdraw because you can't process the sound, and because you withdraw, your brain gets less stimulation and gets worse. Even if you buy expensive hearing aids, they often simply amplify the chaos if they are not tuned for this specific processing disorder. Try the next time you're in a moderately noisy environment, like a restaurant or a living room with the TV on, close your eyes. Can you isolate a single sound? Can you focus just on the TV, then switch your focus just to the person next to you without opening your eyes? If you find that you cannot tune in to one specific sound and tune out the others, your sensory gating might be compromised. It is not about volume, it is about selection. The fourth sign is in your eyes, but again, it is not about needing reading glasses. It is about spatial awareness and contrast sensitivity. You might notice you are tripping more often. You might blame your clumsy feet, but often it is your eyes. You are not seeing the edge where the carpet meets the wood floor because your brain is losing the ability to distinguish low contrast edges. A healthy brain sees the world in high definition with sharp borders. A struggling brain sees the world more like a watercolor painting where colors bleed into each other. If you pour coffee into a dark mug and find yourself spilling it because you can't see the liquid level rising against the dark ceramic, that is a contrast issue. If you struggle to see a black cat sleeping on a black chair, that is contrast sensitivity failure. This is why many seniors fall in dimly lit hallways, not because they are blind, but because their brain cannot detect the faint shadow of a step or a rug. Your peripheral vision may also be narrowing. It is as if the world is literally looking smaller, like you are looking through a tunnel.
You might bump into door frames with your shoulder or knock over cups on the table because your brain is miscalculating the distance. This is a depth perception failure. It is particularly dangerous when driving, as you may not process a car coming from a side street until it is right in front of you. Try sitting in a chair and look straight ahead at a fixed point on the wall. Do not move your eyes. Hold your hands out to your sides, wide open at shoulder level. Wiggle your fingers. Slowly bring your arms forward until you can see your wiggling fingers out of the corner of your eye. Note the angle. If you have to bring your hands almost all the way to the front before you see them, your field of view is restricting. This tunnel vision creates a massive fall risk because you literally cannot see the hazards on the floor around you unless you look directly down at them. So, what do we do with this information? One sign alone might not be a catastrophe. You might have a sinus infection affecting your smell or a bad knee affecting your walk, but there is a specific combination that doctors call motoric cognitive risk syndrome, or MCRS. This is the strongest predictor we have. If you have a slow gait, you are walking slower than you used to, and you also have subjective memory complaints, the risk is much higher. It is the combination of the physical motor decline and the cognitive worry that acts as the check engine light. If you notice you're the last one to cross the street because the light changes before you get to the other side, and you are also worrying about your memory, do not ignore it. This syndrome can precede a dementia diagnosis by more than a decade. We also need to talk about a hidden enemy in your medicine cabinet. Many people over 55 take medication for sleep, allergies, or bladder control. A large class of these drugs are called anticholinergics. They work by blocking a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. The problem is, acetylcholine is the primary chemical your brain uses for memory and learning. If you're taking an over-the-counter sleep aid that contains diphenhydramine every single night, you are effectively chemically blocking your memory consolidation. Studies have linked long-term use of strong anticholinergics with a significantly higher risk of dementia. This is not about stopping your medication cold turkey. That is dangerous. It's about having a conversation with your doctor. Ask them, is this medication anticholinergic? And if so, is there a safer alternative for my brain? Often, there is.
Another surprising connection is your mouth. We often think the mouth is separate from the body, but the blood-brain barrier is not as impenetrable as we once thought.
There is a specific bacteria associated with chronic gum disease, Porphyromonas gingivalis. Recent research has found toxic enzymes produced by this bacteria in the brains of Alzheimer's patients. If you have bleeding gums, that bacteria can enter your bloodstream every time you chew or brush, potentially traveling to the brain and causing inflammation. Inflammation is the fire that burns down the house. So flossing is not just about saving your teeth, it is quite literally about saving your brain. If you hate flossing, get a water flosser. Just get the job done. Now, take a deep breath. Do not panic. Stress releases cortisol, and cortisol is toxic to the hippocampus. Panic hurts your brain. The good news is that lifestyle changes work best when you start them early. We used to think the brain was fixed, but we now know about neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself. Sleep is your brain's rinse cycle. This is not a metaphor. During deep sleep, the glymphatic system activates. Your brain cells actually shrink slightly to create space, and cerebrospinal fluid rushes through the gaps, washing away the beta-amyloid plaque and toxins that build up during the day. If you don't sleep, you don't wash your brain. It's like never taking out the trash in your kitchen. Eventually, it becomes toxic. Here's a tip regarding sleep position. Some animal studies suggest that sleeping on your side may be more efficient for this brain-washing process than sleeping on your back or stomach. While the research is still evolving, if you are comfortable on your side, it might be the best position for glymphatic clearance. Prioritize your sleep like it is medicine. Keep your room cool, dark, and consistent. If you snore heavily, get checked for sleep apnea. Sleep apnea starves your brain of oxygen night after night, which accelerates decline rapidly. Treating it can reverse some of the cognitive fog. Movement is also critical. You do not need to run a marathon. Even a 20-minute brisk walk pumps oxygen-rich blood directly to the memory centers of your brain. It acts like fertilizer for your neurons, specifically a protein called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. This protein repairs brain cells and encourages new growth. Start slow. If you have heart issues, ask your doctor before starting new cardio. But for most of us, simply walking more is the best prescription. The type of exercise matters too. While walking is great, complex movement is even better. Dancing, for example, is one of the best activities for the brain because it combines physical movement with rhythm, memory, remembering the steps, and spatial awareness, not bumping into your partner. It forces the brain to multitask in a fun, low-stress way. If you don't like dancing, try table tennis. Tracking the ball requires immense visual motor coordination. And finally, socialize. Talking to a friend requires your brain to listen, process, formulate a reply, remember the context, and read facial expressions all at once. It is a heavy workout for your neurons, much better than a crossword puzzle or Sudoku. A crossword puzzle uses stored knowledge. A conversation requires dynamic, real-time processing. That is the gym your brain needs. But be careful about how you socialize. Passive socializing, like sitting in a room while others talk, doesn't count. You need to be an active participant. If your hearing is holding you back, get it treated. The stigma of hearing aids is far less dangerous than the reality of dementia. Modern hearing aids are discreet and can even connect to your phone. Treat them as a brain protection device, not just an ear device. Let's talk about diet for a second, specifically sugar. There is a reason some researchers are calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. High blood sugar damages the blood vessels, including the tiny capillaries in your brain. If those roads get damaged, the fuel cannot get to the brain cells and they die. Furthermore, if your brain becomes resistant to insulin, it cannot absorb glucose effectively. A brain that cannot eat is a brain that starves.
Cutting sugar is one of the most powerful things you can do to protect your cognitive future. You don't have to be perfect, but reducing liquid sugar, sodas, sweet teas, fruit juices, is the easiest first step. Replace them with water, tea, or black coffee. Coffee in moderation has actually been shown to be neuroprotective due to its antioxidants. These signs, the smell, the walk, the hearing, the vision, are subtle. They are whispers, not shouts. You have to look for them. If you notice them, make an appointment with a neurologist. Don't let them just give you a memory quiz. Tell them about the smell test. Tell them about the hearing issues in noisy rooms. Tell them about the walking. Give them the full picture so they can help you. There is also a condition called anosognosia, which means lack of insight. Sometimes the person with the declining brain is the last one to know because the part of the brain responsible for self-monitoring is broken. This is why having a trusted partner or friend involved in these checks is so important. If a loved one tells you they have noticed changes in your walking or your temper, listen to them. Do not get defensive. They are your second pair of eyes. Early medication and lifestyle adjustments can keep you independent for much longer. You are the guardian of your own health. Keep moving, keep smelling, and keep listening. Your brain is resilient, but it needs your help.
Every walk you take, every sugary drink you skip, and every night of good sleep you get is a deposit into your cognitive savings account. Check out our other great video about 4 early signs of dementia everyone misses until it's too late to learn more about protecting your future. If you found this helpful, please click the video on the screen now to continue your journey to a healthier brain.